I'm Michael Chime, CEO of Prepared. We've curated a panel of 911 experts to facilitate a discussion about the challenges that they're facing and how Prepared is helping them solve them. Okay, you guys ready?
We
Excited?
are. Yes.
Excited to chat about this?
Yes.
Okay, today we're going to talk about 911 call taking, something you guys know a ton about. So Kari, would love to start with you.
Kari Morrissey. I'm with Anoka County Emergency Communications in Minnesota. I'm the director. Been there for 33 years.
Wow.
Started as a dispatcher on the floor, worked my way up to supervisor, training supervisor, assistant director, and now director. And I actually got into the career through high school. I started a high school program my senior year, and I worked at the police department in New Ulm, and it stuck. And here I am today.
There you go. Awesome.
My name is Aubry Insco. I am the 911 Communications Administrator in the city of Fort Worth.
Cool.
I've been in the industry for 26 years. Just recently transitioned from my original agency to the city of Fort Worth, so happy to be there. I too started when I was really young, so I got into this business when I was 19.
Wow.
I wasn't intending to make a career out of it. I was actually in nursing school when I started in 911, but I just quickly fell in love with the mission and the purpose of 911 and the adrenaline rush as well.
Yeah.
And it's been something that I've just been passionate about for so long. So happy
Awesome.
to be in it.
Yeah. Pumped to have you here.
My name's Debby Gunn. I'm the executive director with Porter County Central Communications in Indiana. I've been cumulatively in the 911 industry for 17 years. I kind of fell into the career as you ladies did as well. I hadn't expected to fall in love with it the way that I did, but
Yeah.
I did and rose through the ranks, and here I am today. So I think it's one of those things, like you said, that it is an adrenaline rush. It's just something that gets in your blood, and it's hard to
Absolutely.
get away from.
Awesome. Well, excited to jump in. It was so eye-opening for me the first time I went to a 911 center. I had this clearly now naive assumption that, like, okay, it's mission critical calls. This is so important. They're going to have the best technology in the world, right? They're going to have, military classified stuff. That's what I was about to see. And then you go in and the technology wasn't that, right? It was actually the inverse of that. Despite the challenge that you guys face, some of the most outdated technology. And just this like passion project for me of like, okay, let's change it. That'd be so much better if we did have better tools working for the center as opposed to against the center. And so, but that was eye-opening for me to see that and just see what a call taker faces every day. And a lot of you guys rose through the ranks, so you actually did it yourselves. But paint that picture, just like, what are they seeing? What are they going through? What are some of the common challenges that they face?
As a call taker, the biggest challenge is we have to relay, not as a novel, but the Reader's Digest version of what's happening to our responders. So when we teach it in the classroom, we have to paint the picture for responders. And you're relying on the callers who are, if it's a critical call, they're not thinking clearly, they're upset based on whatever they're calling about, so you don't always get the right answer. And you have to rely on them 100%. You have to expect them to know where they are. Yes, for weapon descriptions, people descriptions, vehicle descriptions, it's a lot, and they don't always get it right. And you have to quickly transcribe that into your call as you're typing into CAD so that the police or fire dispatcher can get the call dispatched immediately. So it's the weight of the world on the call taker's shoulders for the emergency calls. And even the non-emergency calls, they take a load just because you have to be on. You have to have that customer service in 911 way all the time.
Yeah.
And it's a lot to learn.
Totally.
Well, there's a lot that you're working through during that call, right? So you're interviewing a caller who's not a professional.
Yeah.
You're relying on the information that they're giving you, which she indicated is not always accurate. And we have limited tools. So we rely a lot upon our verbal judo skills to get the job done. We're using lots of different data sets to try to paint that picture and to provide a more precise location within a location so that we can get our field responders to these incidents in a timely manner.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of pressure. And you mentioned that our tools sometimes are antiquated or they are not as resourceful as we would like for them to be.
Yeah.
And obviously we've seen, technology grow. I certainly have, and we all certainly have, being in this industry for so long, but there's still so much opportunity to help. One of the other parts that the call takers really experience is a lot of cognitive load. So in addition to just all the resources that they're ingesting and these decisions that they're having to make in a really timely manner, they're also now bombarded with all these different pieces of technology and trying to ingest that in a meaningful way and in an expeditious way. We have a saying in our industry, which is seconds save lives, and it's our job to save those seconds. And so we're constantly trying to give them new resources to help them process those calls in a timely manner,
Yeah.
while we're also trying to support them through the emotional and cognitive load that is required to facilitate these emergency responses.
Yeah.
Imagine with that load, a dispatcher's subject to just countless pieces of technology at any given moment. So multitasking is, I would say this career is one of the very unique careers that truly explores multitasking to its full capacity. And 911 is truly the technological hub of public safety. And so as a lot of agencies, and I think across public safety nationwide, people are looking at command centers. And I think the focus is good that they're looking at the police for situations like that. But when you consider an incident, let's reference an active shooter, what department within public safety is going to really be burdened the most, is going to be inundated with the calls and the information that needs to be relayed to the responders first and foremost? It's the 911 center.
Yeah.
And for example, you had referenced you go into a 911 center and the minimum screens that one dispatcher is faced with are 8. Our
Yeah.
center have 8 different screens.
Yeah, that was shocking to me.
Each
Yeah,
vital.
I never
and-
would have expected that.
Absolutely. And some of the issues that are just overwhelming dispatchers are just an overwhelming amount of technology that they're faced with daily. I think all of us would agree from our experience. And it's changed just exponentially since we even started the industry. As we all know, a shortage of dispatchers and staffing issues are real and they're palpable. And if we can find something that would streamline that information so there's not so many disparate locations and responsibilities for a dispatcher
Yeah.
at literally the most pressing times of someone's life,
Yeah.
then I think that would solve a big portion of the issues we're having, not only with the whole public safety and responders themselves, but also with retaining dispatchers and just their sense of wellness in the workplace.
I think what you guys did an amazing job of is just painting that picture of what you experience day to day. And there's so much multitasking, to your point, Debbie. And then you add to that the fact that the call volume is only going up, right? We're seeing more calls than ever go into 911 centers. So that problem's only getting exacerbated. And then also staffing's going down in centers. So you're seeing it just be harder to hire a telecommunicator, harder to keep one too, because the job is so difficult. And if the job gets more difficult, that's only going to be more challenging. And so I guess the question that we're thinking a lot about is, what do we do? How do we solve that? And I think it's multi-variable. Like there's a lot of things that we have to do: staffing, how do we retain, et cetera. We think a lot about technology and how that might help. So I'd love to get your thoughts on your experience with how technology might be able to help in this world.
I think modern leaders are going to have to embrace modern technology.
Yeah.
We are no longer in what we have referred to as a staffing crisis. This is our new normal.
Yeah.
So if we do get people in the door, we may or may not retain them. And a lot of that comes back to what we were discussing earlier about the workload. And a lot of that workload is non-emergent workload.
Yeah, it is.
So the public thinks, well, every call that comes into 911 is a life-threatening emergency.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is that most of those calls are, I don't know who else to call. So our teams are challenged with triaging and providing assistance for such a broad array of requests, not just public safety. And so for me, as we look at the attrition that we have within our industry, we're not just talking about 911, we're talking about all the things. And so then how do we infuse technology in our centers to maybe offload some of those non-emergency workloads so that I can focus the highly trained first responders in 911 towards the business of responding to 911 calls. So for me, I'm looking at opportunities to take all of those truly non-emergency calls that are coming in and maybe have those triaged by AI. We experience that now in our modern world. We call our bank or we call other, service providers, and you're greeted with a AI call handling solution, right? And most of the time it gets me exactly what I need. And so I think there's an awesome opportunity for us to infuse that same type of technology within our centers to reduce that cognitive load on our team while still providing a really high level of service to the community that is calling and reaching out to us.
Yeah, I
Doesn't
totally
have
agree.
to be a first responder.
I would agree. I'm an advocate of consolidation in public safety across the board. I think that it streamlines operations, it streamlines training, it streamlines expectations. And similarly to personnel consolidation, we need data consolidation.
Yeah.
We need it. I mean, with everything, as Aubry stated so accurately, we're inundated with information.
Yeah.
And these challenges of retention at my center, and I think it's pretty nationwide, is around 40% of trainees. 40%. So consider the cost that agencies are going through just to
get them
train.
up to speed. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Train,
Wow.
retain them, and then they're out the door.
Yeah.
So you invest so much time, you can't keep CTOs for that purpose. You can't keep the dispatchers that you've trained to do the job.
Yeah. How many of a class stay? You said 40%?
40% in my
Wow.
center on
Okay.
average.
Wow. Is that your experience too?
It just depends on the class.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Some classes are better than others.
right.
Yeah.
I think one thing too is public safety leaders, like Audrey and Debbie said, we have to look forward. I think there's a lot of people that are stagnant or looking back, and we have to plan for the future. We have to move forward. We have to figure out how to keep people.
Mhm.
And we changed our training model to make it more practical. We added
Yeah.
Prepared about 1.5 years ago, and since then, our staffing retention of new employees went from about 25% to 75%. Because we're able
Yeah.
to train better and we have tools, and we have our supervisors using tools that are able to give that immediate feedback.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of success, and some of the people leaving have learned the job, they just don't like the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting thing that is non-obvious that we've experienced is like, from technology, when you think about how does technology help in this world, you often think about, okay, how does it bring stuff together, or how does it do something like translation, which we'll talk about. Like there's the actual practical thing it does. What we're seeing too is people just like the job more and we're more likely to stay. One, because the burden reduces, but also just I've seen a lot of these trainee classes are younger and they're
Yes.
like used to new technology. And when they
They
walk
are.
into a center, they're like, oh, that's shiny. That's cool.
Right.
And so we've seen these downstream impacts in putting new technology in on retention, right?
Mhm.
So if you put this in, people are more likely to stay and enjoy the job, which is really interesting, right? Because you don't necessarily think technology and retention, but that's been
Yeah.
our experience. Yeah.
I think part of the problem, we talk about that one-stop shop that we're looking for.
Mhm.
A call taker takes a phone call, they look to the left to their 911 equipment, make sure the location, they visually verify that what the caller said is correct.
Yeah.
Then they look at another mapping application. Like they've both said, you're looking at so many things, and we're able to have a lot of that in that single pane of glass now.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
have location, we have caller location, we have mapped location, we have spoken location. It's one place to look. They have the transcript, they have the summary. It's a very, very useful tool.
Cool.
Well, and it gives them so much validation and confirmation too, because traditionally in 911, you had one opportunity, right? If you didn't hear it, you had to ask it again.
Yeah.
And so because there is so much pressure on us to get that right, those details matter. So when we're parsing that data out to our fellow first responders in the field, the information needs to be timely and it needs to be accurate, right?
Of course.
So it helps them do their job. So having tools like Prepared and watching every conversation being transcribed and highlighting keywords, often it is catching things that we didn't hear. Because as we all mentioned, we're inundated with all of these resources that we're having to dig and pay attention to, and it's feeding us all this information. And remember, we still have this caller on the line who's still feeding us information as well. And so it's been incredible to watch the AI pick up on things. It's like, I didn't even hear that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because the call taker wasn't doing the very best job they could. It was just there's so much information, and that active listening, we're training for that. We're training
Yeah.
our teams to listen for that. But it's
Yeah.
picking up on things that sometimes we didn't even hear.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that technology should augment a dispatcher's responsibilities daily. It should never overwhelm. And we're at the point right now with the evolution of technology that it's beginning to overwhelm.
Yeah.
And so we've got to find a solution how to really aggregate that technology to the most benefit for not just dispatchers but responders to do that one single one-stop shop. Doesn't just assist us, it provides accurate, concise data to the people who need it
Yeah.
for the field responders.
We've talked a lot about how important time is, right? We're thinking about response times and call processing times. We want to be as fast as we possibly can. But another really important part is quality. So it's like when I
Quality.
send stuff out to responders, what do they actually get?
That's right.
And that's so hard when you're optimizing for speed. And that's another place where we've seen transcription be really useful is, again, that assistant on your shoulder that's catching key details. We had a call come in, and one of the things that the caller mentioned that was missed by the call taker was someone on scene had autism, and there was weapons involved in this call. And so, like, you could think about if that doesn't go out to a responder, they go knocking on the door. They know there's weapons here.
That's right.
Someone's not responsive because they have autism. They may kick the door down, do whatever, like, and again, that person's not responding. That totally changes the dynamics of that response, but it was one single word. Very
That's
easy
right.
to miss in the sea of things you're hearing from a caller. And so, like, can we help get better quality is another thing we're
Well, and
thinking
in
about.
addition to that, often when we have individuals involved that maybe have some sort of mental difference or ability difference,
Yeah.
we're supposed to triage those calls differently. Maybe we ask a different set of questions. Maybe we gain additional information that we're supposed to hand off to our first responders. But if we don't
Yeah.
hear that, we don't know to do that. And that we're relying on our call takers to leverage their training to remember in that moment, I need you to do X, Y, Z,
Yeah.
because these particular set of guidance sets us up for success, right? It sets that interaction with our field responders up for success by gaining this level of situational awareness or setting the tone on certain things. And that's where it would be great if we had some technology that could help with that. So when AI hears those bits of information, it could prompt our call taker
Yeah.
to say, we realize this call is super overwhelming. It's a really dynamic call. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of communication. There's a lot of screaming. And it's picking up these things and prompting to say, hey, remember that our goal is to convey clear, concise, proper, and accurate intelligence to our field responders. So I see technology being a way to bridge the gap and set a consistent level of service across our teams,
Totally.
regardless of their experience. It helps us meet that mark.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right, guys. Well, we just spent a lot of time talking about the challenges you face. And I think it was so helpful to just see your world for a few moments. What does a call taker face? What are some of the challenges you're experiencing? Obviously, we're thinking a lot about this and how technology can hopefully alleviate some of that burden. We talked about cognitive load, right? I think the job will always be difficult. And we're not going to be able to tomorrow just make it an easy job, but I think we can do a lot better. And my hope is that in the future with AI and all of this technology change and innovation, that doesn't neglect 911, right? That we don't in our day-to-day lives have all these cool things, but the folks that are doing essentially the hardest job don't. So that's our goal. I know you guys have some experience with Prepared and have used it, but I'll show you some of the new stuff that we're working on and would love to hear your thoughts on it.
Awesome.
Sound good? Okay. I think the way we want to think about ourselves and hopefully a tech future is that it is man and machine are better together than they would be apart. And how can things like AI operate as a co-pilot? So to zoom out, our mission, our company mission, is that every emergency gets the best possible response. That's our mission. And so then the counter question then is, what keeps us from perfect? Right. And we talked about a lot of those challenges today. One of the things that I've heard from a lot of centers is, and again, if you're a caller, you may not think about this at all, but we don't know exactly your location every single time. We don't know it precisely. Right. And so one of the things that we've really seen be helpful for call takers is to give them as many location feeds as possible, all in one place. And so if you guys have seen our new map view, we give you that. And so you see this all one, you can see every call, whether it's historic in the last hour or it's happening live. And if I click into that call, I get a lot of different feeds. So things like Apple and ELS location, EED. You talk about spoken location. I might pass it to you and explain that more. But basically what we're doing here is we're taking the device location in the background, pulling that. You can see it exactly as it is. We're coupling that with the anti-alley. So we're going in and getting cell tower location. But the third thing we're able to do, because we have transcription, is apply what the caller's saying to that map. So something like, hey, I'm at the Wendy's would be really interesting. Because if we know, okay, this is your exact GPS location, but you don't know the address, what are all the Wendy's around here, right? And you're able to get more accurate location. Because as you guys know, when I'm responding to emergency, if I don't know the location, I kind of can't help you. And so, Kari, you're starting to use spoken location,
Yes.
I think. Can you talk a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, we had a call at a community college, and the caller knew I'm at the Anoka Ramsey Community College. They did not know the address, and as we know, we have also an Anoka Technical College, so we like to ask for cross streets, narrow it down at least, and they couldn't. But they gave us their spoken location, and they said, and I'm across the street from the Coon Rapids Fire Department.
Right.
So based on all three locations, we could the call taker was very confident that they were where they were, and they were able to look at one screen without looking at their phone, their 911 call handling equipment, or another application. But having all three, that was justification to not keep questioning them on, you need to give me an intersection, you need to give me more. It just gave it to us in one window.
Yeah. That's
We have a
awesome.
lot of sporting events and entertainment areas,
Yeah.
and those locations can be vast, and they have one physical address usually.
Yeah. Oh, I
And
didn't even think about that. Like a stadium only has one address.
that's
Right? You
right.
could be anywhere. And
So when you're
that's so
sending
interesting.
responders and you've got such a critical incident happening, or let's
Yeah.
use your example of someone having cardiac arrest,
Right.
those seconds are even more precious, right? And I need to know more precisely where they're at, so I can also maybe give them information about where the defibrillator is that's right next to them.
Yeah.
How can we intervene? How can we respond in a significant way? And how can we get those field responders to you in the shortest amount of time, instead of them making scene and saying, okay, I'm at 123 Main Street, now where? I'm not sure that's the address they gave. They said they're somewhere on the second floor.
Yeah.
Using technology to kind of augment what the caller is telling you, we've seen tremendous value in getting them there quicker.
That's awesome.
With dispatching, the two most vital components and questions that dispatchers have to get right are location and a phone number. And so I think that this tool provides the validation, the confirmation that oftentimes stalls or postpones response when
Right.
you're trying to confirm that for validation, or what is that again? I mean, this is just another tool that I think will augment, as we said, just that information gathering process.
Yeah, I totally agree. So to bridge on that, I think, again, our number one goal is how do we help the call taker do their job better? How do we get the best possible response? One of those we talked a lot about was translation, right? So
Yes.
I can't really help you if I don't know what's happening. And so
That's right.
how do we give you the ability to, no matter what language they speak, offer that equal access to know what's
Absolutely.
happening? And so we're really excited to launch this with centers. And we think now anybody could speak any language, right? And so I'll show you an example of a Vietnamese call, or let's do Spanish where we can show two-way.
911, where's your emergency? Sí, 950 East Avenue, apartamento D, 14. Excuse me, is there anyone there who speaks English? No, no hablo inglés. Okay, one moment please, I'm getting assistance. Okay.
Please type your PIN to conference the Prepared Translator. Prepared Translator 95 has joined the call. 911, ¿dónde está tu emergencia?
Sí, 950 East Avenue, apartamento D14.
900.
Okay, I'll mute it. I'll keep going in the background because you guys know the platform, so you saw what was happening there. Where now, just with one-way translation, we can instantly understand what's happening on the other side. But what we're really excited about is two-way translation. And so today, historically, you've had to have any conversation, right, to bridge that gap. You've had to hit a button and bring in that human interpreter. It causes hold times, and then secondly, you're just a third party. You cannot participate in that interaction. Now anyone can speak any language. So we get that instant translation. We understand that they don't speak English, and you hit a button in Prepared Translator, and it inserts the same way your translation service is, but you're controlling it. So anything here you type, it'll speak back to the caller in their native language. And so it reduces this to a second.
That is such an incredible tool. And one of the things, too, when we talk about translators is the more foreign the language, the longer the response for the translator.
Yeah.
So, often you can get pretty readily available Spanish translation, maybe Vietnamese, but you start talking about other more foreign languages that are not common in the U.S., it elongates that response.
Yeah.
And as I'm watching this, I'm thinking about how the U.S. is about to host the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And it is going to bring a magnitude of different languages all to the U.S. and how those, we hope they never have to call us, but the reality is we need to be prepared for that. And not having those elongated translation sessions, we need to quickly understand what's going on and be able to provide a resource. And I see this to be revolutionary in the way that we interact with those that do not speak English or speak a different language.
Yeah.
I can share how we're using the outbound texting translation. We have a U.S. World Cup soccer youth tournament, brings in people from all over the world. And we get a lot of 911 hangups, and they're not problems. And we would have to create a call for service, send an officer out there, go find them if they could.
Yeah.
Now we're able to initiate an outbound text that translates to their native language on their phone.
Wow.
We're able to find out there's not a problem very soon, sooner than later, and then it alleviates sending the police out there.
It's wonderful.
So we've been,
Management.
it is a really good tool for us on many levels.
Okay, one last thing I want to hit on. We had this sneaky summary in the corner here. But this is another thing that we had the conversation about. It's like, and again, under that bucket of acting as a co-pilot. And we talked about how much a call taker has to process, right? And how many screens they have to look at. What we found with this summary is that we're taking a huge load off them with note taking, right?
Yes.
They don't feel like they have to catch every single little detail. They still do it, right? But they always have this, again, assistant on the side that's like, I got your back. I have all the details here. And you find us oftentimes catching things that do get missed when you're trying to take all that information in. AI is so good at processing a lot of data, right? That's what it's really, really good at quickly. So let's use it to
Absolutely.
help people be better. So how do you think about summaries?
I think summaries are very empowering for every call taker. You know, even as seasoned pros, we kind of know what the responders are needing, but there's still the time that it takes to type out all those notes, right? We have summarized in our brain what the caller has said. We know what our responders are needing. We understand what our agency expects of us.
Yeah.
But this is summarizing it really quickly. And so as a call taker, all I have to do is verify, yes, that's accurate. Copy, paste. The information now has been clearly and concisely relayed to our responders in a timely fashion.
Yeah.
I think that takes a lot of the work out of it. One of the other things that we see often with new people coming into the industry too is the art of call notes, right? It needs to be clear. It needs to be concise because we're not court stenographers. We don't have to capture every word, but there's an immense amount of pressure, as she mentioned earlier, to get it right, get the information right.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of time spent crafting those notes to be meaningful. And I think this cuts out a lot of that time. And I love that there is high priority information in there and that what we're telling it is important flushes out in those notes.
Yeah. One of the ways our teams thinks about what new things we should go about building is framing it all around that mission. And the mission is that we hope one day there's a world where every emergency gets the best possible response. And so it's a useful framing question because then it's like, well, what keeps us from the best possible? And so, we started to ask some interesting questions of directors. One was on QA. And I remember asking a director, I'm like, what are you trying to do with QA? Like, what's the goal? And it's provocative on purpose. I was just trying to really get it like the root cause, foundation, ground truth. What are we trying to do? And he's like, well, okay, we try to see if they're aligning with protocols. And I'm like, well, why is that interesting? Well, it's like, well, we want to say the right things on calls. And so it's like, okay, you understand what's happening on the call, you train on it, and then the hope is that that person then says the right thing, right? So 6-month process, the arbitrary number, but a long process to determine the issues, go and train on those issues on the hope that that person is going to say the thing that you want them to say the next time. I think we might be able to do better. And so we have some ideas on how that might work. I think the really interesting thing could be, what if AI, again, it knows what you're facing. That's what transcription is for. It knows what's happening on the call. It also knows with protocols what you should say on the call. And if you think about like, okay, how do we make sure we capture the right things? It's not that hard of a technical problem. It is what is being said and what's ought to be said, right? Okay. The goal here being that while we're on the call, not after the fact, we detect the issue. While we're on the call, we catch all of those key details. And we see a world where AI is smart enough to know what should you ask and then nudges you like, hey, dude, ask that question while they're still there. And the benefit is while we're on that call, we capture all of those critical details. They find their way out to responders that we never miss a critical detail before someone goes into emergency. So I think it would look something like this. So you'll see a call transcript come in. The normal questions, 911, what's your emergency? And they'll go about describing that situation. AI on the side will know, one, what is the emergency? So based on that description, they're going to know what protocol actually is useful here. Then it'll pop it up, right? And again, this call is happening live. Wow. Call taker can watch this and say, got it. Okay, green, I verified the incident. All right, got it. Green, I verified the call takers or the caller's number. All right, is the incident still in progress, right? Just going through my queue. And now we hope that if I have this little nudge on the side, I collect all of those key details in the moment, not miss a key detail, find it a couple months later, train them on how to do it again, and maybe next time we get it, every single call is as close to perfect or as best possible as we can possibly get, right? We think this is going to have a dramatic impact on call takers. And my hope is it'll really help size up trainees, right? So like now it's not just the senior dispatcher that's done this 1,000 times, oh, they're going to get it right. I hope that day one, somebody will show up on the floor and be very close. So anyway, I'd love your guys' reaction.
I'm thrilled with
Okay.
this. I think that QA ultimately at its core is expectation accountability.
Yeah.
And so often QA is viewed from a negative, with a negative connotation. And I'm confident, and I think all of us on the panel can agree that our dispatchers are doing their jobs and they're doing it well. And those times when they fall short, I believe that this tool will verify that, will confirm that they're doing what we've asked them to do. And I think it will challenge them to meet those expectations as opposed to discouraging them because they failed in a small regard or a small aspect. With the amount of data that we're able to provide, we train our employees well. They are prepared when they get to the floor, but there are times when they fail. And it is our responsibility to correct them during those times. But I think where we have failed with call takers is not acknowledging all the wonderful times where they have nailed it.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
this will, I think this is just monumental in the industry, and I'm excited to see how this rolls out.
Amazing. What do you think? Kari?
I'm very excited for it. It's another one less pane of glass we can have. We don't have to have separate protocols. And I think one of the biggest challenges, we've all said it, you've mentioned it too, is we train people to come out on the floor and do the job. We might come up with a different event type maybe, because we grow up differently, so we think differently. And one of the biggest points is you may never take a structure fire or a robbery. You might not take that for the first 2 or 3 years of your career.
Yeah, right.
But when you do, we need you to be on. And this is going to help you be on and not miss it. And then again, you don't have the weight of the world on your shoulders going, what did I miss? Because you're going to have that your buddy on your shoulder helping you out. I love this. I love that
do too.
product.
You know, I think
Yeah.
we all strive as public safety leaders to empower our people and set them up for success. And we expect a lot of them, and a lot of the skill that they build is over time, right? And they get better as call takers over time. But we want every call taker to know exactly what they need to do at the right time, you know, to facilitate or foster those positive public safety outcomes. And I can see how this can do just that. So even from a brand new call taker, you feel the confidence that you know exactly what you need to do.
The industry right now, there's so much scrutiny around everything public safety. I can speak for myself and our agency. The amount of FOIA requests we get are overwhelming. I mean, just growing by the day. And I feel like that is why we have got to maintain consistent expectations, and we have to really relay to our teams that how vital it is to meet those. And where we fail is the inconsistency with evaluating those. This provides that level of consistency that we've lacked so often. So I'm really thrilled with this.
Yeah, I think all of us as leaders, you know, we worked our way up, and we're here, we serve down, and we owe it to our teams to give them the tools that are going to help them succeed and just enhance their job, their workflow. And this is one of those tools that definitely can help.
All right. Thank you so much for being here. That's a wrap. I really appreciate the conversation and the opportunity to talk to each of you. One thing that I've really gotten the opportunity to experience is your world. But for the everyday person, they don't think about 911 that often. But it's essential to everything that we do, right? You don't think about it until you absolutely need it. But you guys see that every single day and answer the call. And so I feel so fortunate to have these types of conversations with you and to play a very small role in hopefully making it that much better. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah,
My
thank you.
pleasure.